Have you ever walked into a room and felt eyes on you, judging before you even opened your mouth? That's where our story begins, in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, on a warm spring morning in 2025. The air buzzed with excitement outside Atlanta Community College, where families in bright sundresses and sharp suits poured into the auditorium for a graduation ceremony. Balloons bobbed in the breeze, kids darted between legs, and laughter echoed off the brick walls. But one man stood apart, his presence like a quiet thunder. Master Sergeant Marcus Jackson, a Black Army veteran with 30 years of service, stepped onto the campus with a purpose. His suit jacket, faded but pressed to perfection, hid a Bronze Star medal pinned to his chest, a relic of battles fought in deserts half a world away. Marcus wasn't here for fanfare. He was here for his daughter Aaliyah, the first in their family to graduate college. In his pocket he clutched her handwritten note. "Dad, you're my rock. I'm walking this stage because of you. Please be there." Those words carried him through deployments, through nights when the world felt too heavy, and now through the crowd to the reserved family section. Marcus settled into his seat, his broad shoulders filling the chair, his eyes scanning the stage for Aaliyah's cap and gown. He'd missed too many of her milestones, birthdays, recitals, first days of school because duty called. Iraq, Afghanistan, countless missions where his courage saved lives, yet left him a stranger to his own. Today was different. Today he'd be the father she deserved, front and center, watching her shine. But as the auditorium filled, Marcus felt it, the weight of stares. A woman in a floral dress whispered to her husband, her eyes flicking toward him. A man adjusted his tie, glancing over like Marcus was out of place. He knew those looks. 30 years in the Army, from enlisted to master sergeant, and still in his own country, he was sometimes just a tall black man in a space where some thought he didn't belong. He shifted in his seat, fingers brushing the metal under his jacket. Just focus on Aaliyah, he told himself. This is her day. Why do heroes like Marcus, who've given everything for their country, still face those glances? It's a question that stings because the truth is, sacrifice doesn't always earn respect. Studies from the 2020s show Black veterans are 3 times more likely to face scrutiny in public spaces than their white counterparts. Marcus had seen it before, on buses, in diners, even at VA hospitals. But today, he pushed it down, trusting the ticket in his hand and the love in his daughter's note. Let's pause and think. How often do we assume someone's story based on their skin, their clothes, their silence? It's a mistake we all make, even unintentionally. We see a uniform, a medal, a man like Marcus, and we forget the battles he's fought on the front lines and at home. The lesson here is simple but heavy. True heroes carry their pride quietly, but the world doesn't always see it. Marcus didn't need applause. He just needed to be there in that moment for his little girl. But something was brewing. As the crowd settled and the lights dimmed, 2 security officers weaved through the aisle, their eyes locked on Marcus. One clutched a clipboard, the other a radio buzzing with static. They stopped beside him, their shadows falling across his seat. "Sir," the first officer said, voice clipped, "we need to see your ticket." Marcus handed it over, calm as ever, but his heart began to race. He'd been here before, and deep down he sensed this wasn't about the ticket at all. What happens when the world refuses to see a hero for who he is? When a father's love is questioned by a clipboard and a glance? That's where we're headed next. A moment that tests Marcus's strength and sets the stage for a fight he didn't expect. You know that sinking feeling when a perfect day starts to crack? That's exactly what hit Marcus, as the auditorium lights softened and the hum of conversation grew. He was there, ticket in hand, heart full, ready to celebrate Aaliyah's triumph. But those glances, they weren't just curious. They were sharp, like invisible barbs testing his resolve. It started subtle. A couple 2 rows ahead turned their eyes, lingering a beat too long on Marcus's frame, his faded jacket, his skin. Then came the whispers, soft but slicing. "Who's that guy? Doesn't look like he fits." Marcus caught fragments, his trained ears picking up the doubt. He'd faced enemy fire without flinching, but these civilian stares, they chipped away at something deeper. And then the twist that shook him, overhearing a polished man in a suit mutter to his wife, "He doesn't belong here." Those words landed like a gut punch, planting seeds of self-doubt in a man who'd earned his place 1,000 times over. For a split second, Marcus wondered if he should just leave, spare Aaliyah the drama. But no, he'd fought too hard for this. Enter the security officers, two figures in crisp uniforms cutting through the aisle like they owned the moment. The first, clipboard in grip, zeroed in on Marcus. "Sir, this is the reserved family section. Mind showing us your ticket?" Marcus handed it over without a word, his bronze star glinting faintly as he moved. They scanned it, then his ID, their faces hardening. "We need to verify this further. Step aside with us, please." Step aside. In a sea of families settling in, why him? Marcus rose calmly, his voice steady. "I'm her father. That's my daughter's note right there." But the officers weren't listening, gesturing toward the side door, their skepticism hanging thick in the air. This wasn't random friends. It's the sting of suspicion that too many know all too well. Think about it. Studies show that 41% of Black Americans have been stopped or detained by police because of their race. That's not just a number. It's lives interrupted, dignity questioned in everyday spaces like this auditorium. Implicit bias, that sneaky undercurrent, fuels these snap judgments, judging a book by its cover, or in Marcus's case by the color of his skin and the quiet strength he carried. Compare it to the old gatekeeping tactics like those voter suppression schemes that blocked black folks from the polls with literacy tests or endless red tape. Here it's a clipboard instead of a poll tax, but the goal's the same: to make you feel like an outsider in your own story. And the common mistake? Those bystanders, the whispering parents, they stayed silent, letting the microaggression slide, enabling a system that thrives on inaction. But here's the depth. The motivation to keep going, dignity under pressure, is a silent rebellion against prejudice. Marcus didn't raise his voice or cause a scene. He stood tall, embodying the resilience that's carried generations through storms. It's a lesson for all of us who've felt that sting: hold your ground because your presence is your power. Yet as Marcus followed the officers into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind him, the real test was just beginning. What would Aaliyah think when she scanned the crowd and saw an empty seat? And how far would this suspicion push a hero before he pushed back? Hang on, because the worry is about to turn into action in ways no one saw coming. A sterile hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of doubts as Marcus stepped out of the auditorium, the door slamming shut with a thud that echoed in his chest. The two security officers stood close, their faces stone cold, one gripping a clipboard like a shield. "Sir, your name's not on the list," the taller one said, his tone flat final. "You'll need to leave campus now." Marcus's fingers twitched, itching to ball into fists, but he kept them loose. He'd faced ambushes in war zones, carried wounded soldiers through chaos, but this being pushed out of his daughter's graduation for a missing name, it cut deeper than shrapnel. "I'm her father," he said, voice steady as granite. "She invited me." The officers didn't budge, pointing toward the exit like he was some stranger off the street. That walk toward the parking lot felt like a march into exile. Marcus's boots clicked on the tile, each step a reminder of the sacrifices: years overseas, missed birthdays, sleepless nights that led to Aaliyah's big day. Yet here he was, sidelined, while families inside laughed, snapped photos, and belonged without question. It's a story too familiar, isn't it? Across the South, Black parents have been turned away from school events over technicalities, echoes of a system that thrives on exclusion. The pain isn't just rejection, it's the theft of a moment you've earned, the kind that leaves scars no metal can heal. Think of the contrast inside. Parents were hugged, welcomed their presence unquestioned, while Marcus faced a clipboard and cold stares. It's not just unfair, it's a modern echo of gates slammed shut like redlining or voter ID traps designed to keep some out while others glide through. The mistake we make, swallowing that shame, letting it silence us to keep the peace. Marcus could have fought back, raised his voice, but he thought of Aaliyah's smile on that stage. So he walked head high, heartbreaking. Here's the spark to hold on to. Injustice only wins when we let it stand unchallenged. Marcus's silence wasn't weakness, it was love, a father's choice to protect his daughter's moment. But that choice carried a cost, and it's one we've all felt when we've bitten our tongues to avoid a scene. The lesson: every quiet step you take in the face of wrong is still a step toward reclaiming your space. Back in the auditorium, Aaliyah sat among her classmates, her cap slightly askew, eyes glued to the empty seat where her dad should have been. Her phone buzzed, no reply to her text. "Dad, where are you?" Her heart pounded, drowning out the dean's speech. She pictured him out there alone, and a wild thought hit her twist of the moment she could ditch the ceremony run to find him, even if it meant missing her name being called. Her diploma was hers, but her dad was her hero. Jamal, her childhood friend, now a green beret and crisp dress whites, caught her trembling hands. His eyes narrowed, reading her panic like a battlefield signal. What happens when a daughter's worry sparks a warrior's resolve? Get ready, because the tide's about to turn in ways that'll make your heart race. The parking lot stretched out before Marcus like a desert, the Atlanta sun glinting off car hoods, mocking the chill in his heart. Each step away from the auditorium felt like a betrayal, not of himself, but of Aaliyah, who'd be scanning the crowd for her dad's proud smile. His bronze star weighed heavy under his jacket, a reminder of battles won, but this quiet defeat stung worse. He'd faced enemy fire, carried men to safety, yet here he was, pushed out of his daughter's moment by a clipboard and a lie. Just as he reached the lot's edge, a voice cut through the haze, sharp and commanding: "Master Sergeant Jackson." Marcus turned, and there they were, 6 Green Berets, their dress whites crisp as a battle flag, striding toward him like a unit on a mission. Leading them was Jamal, Aaliyah's childhood friend, his eyes burning with purpose. Marcus had known Jamal since he was a skinny kid playing hoops in their driveway, always looking up to him like a second father. Now Jamal stood tall, a newly minted soldier flanked by 5 comrades whose faces said they didn't play games. Sir Jamal said, snapping to attention, "Did they just ask you to leave?" Marcus nodded, his voice low. "Said I wasn't on the list." A young beret, barely 22, clenched his fists, his voice hot. "You're a damn war hero. Aaliyah's your daughter. This wasn't just a rescue, it was brotherhood in action." Stories like this echo across military bases where soldiers bonded by sacrifice step up when one of their own is wronged. Why do these bonds run so deep? Because in the chaos of war, race fades, trust and loyalty take over. These berets saw Marcus not as a name missing from a list, but as a legend who'd earned his place. Compare that to the officer's rigid protocol, hiding bias behind paperwork like a modern-day "you can't sit here" sign. The mistake institutions too often choose rules over justice, blind to the human cost. But here's the fire to carry forward: true allies act fast to right wrongs. These berets didn't hesitate. They moved unified because they knew Marcus's fight was theirs too. And the twist: one of them, a quiet soldier named Daniels, stepped forward, his voice low but fierce. "They did this to my dad at my high school graduation. Told him he looked suspicious. I'm not letting it happen again." This wasn't just about Marcus, it was personal, a shared wound driving their resolve. Jamal turned toward the auditorium, his jaw set. "Follow us, sir." The berets formed a wall around Marcus, their boots hitting the pavement in sync, a force no clipboard could stop. They marched back, eyes locked on the officers now guarding the door, their confidence wavering. What happens when a brotherhood storms back to reclaim what's right? Buckle up, because this return is about to shake the room. The auditorium doors swung open and the air shifted like a storm rolling in. Marcus stepped back inside, not alone this time, but flanked by 6 Green Berets in dress whites, their presence a wall of unwavering resolve. Jamal led the charge, his eyes daring anyone to question them. The crowd parted like a sea, whispers rippling through the rows as parents craned their necks, phones already out capturing the moment. The security officers, caught off guard, froze at the entrance, their clipboards now flimsy shields. One muttered something into his radio, but the berets didn't break stride. They escorted Marcus straight to the front row, where an empty seat waited like a throne reclaimed. Marcus sat, his bronze star glinting under the stage lights, and for the first time that day, he felt seen not as an outsider, but as a father, a hero, a man who belonged. Aaliyah, up in the graduate lineup, spotted him, her eyes widening with relief, a smile breaking through her worry. The room buzzed, the energy electric, as cameras flashed and whispers grew louder. The dean, mid-speech on stage, paused, sensing the shift, her gaze flickering to the group now commanding the space. This wasn't just a return, it was a statement, a line drawn in the sand. You've seen moments like this go viral, haven't you? Stories of Black excellence pushing back against exclusion, like the time a Black valedictorian's speech shut down a heckling crowd, spreading across social media like wildfire. What makes these moments powerful? It's collective action, flipping the script, turning a single voice into a chorus. When those berets marched in, they didn't just bring Marcus back, they dismantled the power dynamic that tried to erase him. Compare this to the civil rights sit-ins of the 60s, where ordinary people took a stand, shifting history one seat at a time. The mistake here, underestimating what happens when allies show up loud and unapologetic to right a wrong. The lesson burns bright, standing together amplifies silenced voices. Marcus didn't need to fight alone. His allies turned his exile into a triumph, proving that solidarity can move mountains. And here's the twist that hit like a spark among the whispering parents. One woman, the same one who'd muttered, "He doesn't belong here," stood up, clapping slowly at first, then louder. Her face flushed with shame, but her applause was real, a crack in the wall of judgment. One small heart changed a ripple that could grow. As the ceremony resumed, all eyes were on Marcus, the berets, standing like sentinels behind him. Aaliyah gripped her cap, her heart pounding, knowing her moment on stage was coming. What happens when a daughter sees her father restored and decides to make her own stand? Get ready, because the stage is set for a moment that'll bring tears to your eyes. As the applause faded and the auditorium lights brightened, Marcus and Aaliyah stood together outside the Atlanta Community College, wrapped in a hug that held years of missed moments. Reporters swarmed, their cameras flashing, but Marcus didn't talk about the security officers or their clipboards. Instead, he spoke of service, 30 years defending a country that didn't always defend him back, and of family, the fire that kept him going. Aaliyah, clutching her diploma, beamed. "My dad's my hero," she told a mic, her voice steady. "He taught me to keep pushing no matter what." But the story didn't end there. Word came that the college launched a review of the incident, and the officers faced disciplinary action for their oversight. The dean issued a public apology, vowing better training to prevent bias. Online, the moment exploded. Clips of Aaliyah's salute and Marcus's return racked up millions of views, sparking hashtags like #HonorOurHeroes. This wasn't just a family's victory. It was a wake-up call, a reminder of the quiet battles Black veterans like Marcus fight daily, often unseen. Programs like the VA's Veteran Support Initiatives show progress, but stories like this prove change starts with accountability. Reflect for a second. Marcus's life was a series of wars overseas and combat at home against prejudice. Yet that day, flanked by Green Berets and lifted by his daughter's love, he became more than a soldier. He became a symbol of resilience, showing that justice isn't given, it's claimed. Compare this to the broader struggle for equity in 2025 America, where systemic bias still lingers in schools, workplaces, and streets. The mistake we make, ignoring the small injustices, letting them pile up until they crush someone's spirit. Marcus's story teaches us one act of courage can spark a movement. And here's the twist that seals it. Aaliyah, inspired by the day's events, announced she was joining a veteran advocacy group determined to amplify stories like her father's. "I'm not just a graduate now," she said, standing beside Marcus. "I'm a voice for those who've been silenced." Her decision wasn't just personal, it was a promise to carry the fight forward, turning one moment into a legacy. Let's take it deeper. What does this mean for us? Whether you're driving through the night, winding down, or facing your own battles, Marcus's story is a call to stand up, to see the unseen, to challenge the clipboards in your life. It's not just about one man or one day, it's about all of us refusing to let injustice have the last word. If this story hit you as hard as it hit me, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button and join our community where we share tales of resilience, justice, and real people beating the odds every week. Drop a comment below. Tell us about a time you stood up or saw someone rise against injustice. Your story could inspire someone else to keep fighting. And if you want more stories that lift your spirit and fire you up, check out our playlist of unsung heroes linked in the description. Let's keep this movement growing together. We're unstoppable.